everyone. Welcome back to Banterly, the podcast by Gen Z for Gen Z, dishing out all that pop culture media talkaroo. I'm Aidan.
And I'm Aditi.
What's going on in the pop culture sphere in your world?
Well, did you watch the Oscars?
I did watch the Oscars. I watched it with some friends. It was, I think, the second time I've watched it all the way through in my entire life. And
Okay. What were your thoughts?
It took a lot shorter than I thought it would. I feel like they really were boom, 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 boom. I liked looking at the red carpet.
I thought, all in all, it was one of the best, most interesting, most fun Oscars that they've had. I feel like number one, and we talked about this in the last episode, it was just a fantastic year for movies. So I think there was a lot that they could play with, especially all the Barbenheimer stuff. I thought that was hilarious, seeing Ryan Gosling perform. But then for best actress and best actor, the fact that, and supporting, the fact that they had 5 previous winners present and give each person a little speech about how fantastic they are. I just thought that was such a brilliant and heartwarming idea, and it was so sweet to watch.
Well, the first time it happened, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I was like, oh, I wonder who's going to be on stage for the next ones. And everybody looked so good. Oh my gosh. But I agree. It did feel very fun. It didn't feel as stuffy as I was expecting it to be. I feel like everybody kind of unbuttoned their top button and kind of let loose. And Ryan Gosling's performance I loved. I was highly entertained. I thought it was really, really funny. It was just, I was like, wow. And then when they brought on the other Kens from the movie, I was just like, oh, this is fun. I want to be at this party.
All my life been so polite, but I'll sleep alone tonight, 'cause I'm just kidding.
What about your pop culture moments? Or what's on your mind?
I mean, it would be a disgrace to not talk about Ariana Grande's new album, I feel like, because I do enjoy Ariana Grande, and I kind of forgot she was releasing an album until on Friday, my friend was like, oh, let's listen to Ariana Grande's new album. And I was like, yes. And that was good. Not as good as I thought it was going to be.
Hey,
but
I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah. No, you know what? The first listen, I wasn't a fan. I felt like every song kind of felt the same. And it was just kind of repeating the same type of vibes, which is fine for an album. But then coming back on the train from Boston to New York, the 4-hour train, I listened to the album on loop while I was working. And I was like, wow, this is it's great. It's just a great vibe. I don't know, I could focus while listening. And I do still think they all sound similar. And it's hard for me to pick out which songs are which. But after seeing TikToks about be friends, I'm like, oh my God. I don't think I paid attention to the lyrics enough when I was listening to it. And so now I've started to do that because I still listen to it every time I leave my house. It's that's what I play. So overall, not my favorite album of hers, but I do like it. What are your thoughts?
I really like this album. I really like it conceptually. It's based partially a concept album based off of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it is a painful movie, great breakup movie. And I mean, her music video I think it was for We Can't Be Friends, it was based off of it. And it's about wanting to remove the memory of the person who you broke up with. And it's such a painful video. I feel like every song in this album is so rooted in deep emotion. And I just think a reason I really like this album is because I really appreciate it when an artist turns very real emotional experiences into art. And I think this is especially true for this album because she really didn't address any of the Ethan Slater drama or the Dalton drama when there was so much chatter about it in the media. Everyone was talking about it. People were slandering her, honestly, in a big way. But she didn't say a thing. And then she drops this album. And I just think that's really crazy, but also very respectable and strong to let your music speak for yourself. And I think I like the album conceptually because of that. Really, the only song I listen to is Eternal Sunshine. but I still really enjoyed it. And I have a lot of respect for her. And she did great on SNL.
When you think about it, Ariana Grande's been through so much. And yes, she's had her problematic things like licking the donut and being a culture vulture of sorts, but the whole Mac Miller thing, the terrorist attack at her concert, or the shooting at her concert, either way, she's been through a lot, and happy to see her happy, even if she is with someone who looks just like her brother. But moving on to today's question of the day. Speaking of Ariana Grande and Frankie Grande, do you believe in soulmates?
Speaking of them. Whew, do I believe in soulmates? Maybe. Sure. I am afraid of believing in soulmates. I think because what if I don't find it? I mean, maybe the point of a soulmate is like you're going to find them eventually, but hey, how do you know that? I feel like I've found soulmates in my friends for sure, and I'm very thankful for them, but man, haven't found a romantic soulmate. In my head, there's a universe where John Mulaney and I, sorry for bringing him up again, where we're married. Because in my head, I'm like, we are made for each other. Him and also Timothy Chalamet. This is a crazy combination of people. But Timothy, I feel like we are so similar. I watch an interview of him and I'm like, we would get along so well. So I think those two are maybe my soulmates. They don't know it. What about you? Do you believe in soulmates?
I think I do, but I think I mostly believe in platonic soulmates. I think I found quite a few, honestly. And when I think of platonic soulmates, I just think of people that I can be 100% myself, who understand me, who it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. Like, it's not la-di-do-do-do. We love each other all the time, but we get each other and we understand parts of each other and can grow with each other. And I also do think that in terms of romantic soulmates, I don't think you have just one. I think that you have soulmates for different parts of your life. Like, your soulmate in middle school or elementary school or high school may not be your soulmate when you're 85 years old and in a senior citizen abode. And I think you can have many different soulmates for many different parts. And I also think you can grow into being soulmates. When you might not meet someone and it might not click right away, but you grow with each other and then you realize, oh, wow, like, damn, you're my soulmate.
No, I think that makes sense. I think the way I look at it is like a soulmate is your end all be all. So I agree that there's like a right person for each stage of your life that you learn from. And it doesn't make sense to regret being in a relationship with someone because it worked for that period of time. It just didn't continue to work. But I think I see a soulmate as something that is so definitive that it's the person that you're spending truly the rest of your life with. And I find that conceptually to be hard to fathom. And I would like to find mine, whoever it is, but it's a frightening concept. Am I putting in an effort to find this person? Can't say I am.
I'm definitely interested in finding mine. Every time I see a TikTok that's like, ooh, if you're seeing this, that means you've already met your soulmate. Or if you're seeing this one, then you're going to meet them in this. And a lot of the times they say I've already met my soulmate. So, hey.
I mean, how do we define meet? Like, what if you brushed past them on the street and you're like, ooh, sorry.
I think when I see this, I interpret it as someone that you've had a conversation with, that you know their name, they know your name. Okay. But that's a good idea. I feel like I love the invisible string things that I see on TikTok where it's like, oh, we went to the same, her family's in the back of my family's Disney World picture in 2007. And now we're married and we figured it out later. I love that. And I always wonder, I wonder if I ever get married, if we're going to have a moment like, wait, you used to go to that place? Wait, you went to high school there? Wait, you live there? I bet we've been to the same cafe once. Then we find a picture and, gives me chills.
I know. I love stuff like that. And I think whenever things like that happen, that's when I'm like, okay, soulmates do exist. Like, we go through things in our life for a reason. Like, things happen for a reason. And whenever whenever I hear stories about that, it's like, this feels like fate, like you were destined to meet each other. It just wasn't the right time in those periods, but we wanted to circle your energies together. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm, firm believer in that. And you know what else happened for a reason? One Day on Netflix.
Oh,
And
God.
just saying that makes my heart crumble into a billion pieces. But if you couldn't guess, that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Let's dive in. Just a forewarning before we begin, there will be spoilers for this. So if you haven't seen One Day, go watch that right now. Let's talk about it.
It's one of the great cosmic mysteries. How it is that someone can go from being a total stranger to being the most important person in your life?
You've seen One Day. How was that experience for you?
I've seen One Day. So my story with One Day is I needed a show to watch on Netflix. I watched the trailer or whatever, and I was like, brown woman in a romance lead, I'm in. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm so glad that she's the main character. And then I kept watching it, and I was like, this isn't gonna be good for me emotionally. And I don't seek out watching sad things. I was really trying to find a feel-good romance movie. I was like, wow, brown woman, happy ending. That's exactly what I need. Mistakes were made. You could you could say. And I had no idea about the Anne Hathaway movie or the book. I did not know. I truly knew nothing going into this. And man, I sobbed for an hour and a half after. And I don't know, I feel like I haven't felt this sense of existential dread after watching a show for a while. And I'd say that's how I felt. I have a photo I took to send my friends to be like, hey, you guys should watch the show if you want to feel like this. I look absurd in it. It's because I was crying. But this was literally me absolutely sobbing. Just tears flowing. I couldn't stop them. I washed my face 5 times. It and we'll talk more about it later, but it wrecked me. What about you? What was your experience?
It wrecked me too. And I am often in search of things that will make me cry just because I love a good cry. Like I said, I watched that movie Holding the Man when I want to cry. And this is my new thing that I'm going to watch when I want to cry. But I watched it very slowly. I don't really think I knew much about it. I think my friends had mentioned something and I'd seen things on TikTok of people crying, being like, don't waste your 20s, watch One Day. And I'm like, okay, what's One Day? So then I watched it one night and I started and I was like, oh, it's good. It was a little bit slow in the beginning, but I kept watching and it took me a while, a relatively long time to finish it. I feel like a week and a half, which may not sound like a long time, but for a Netflix show with 14 episodes, I feel like I normally can get through that pretty quickly, but I'm glad that I took my time. Mm-hmm. And I watched the last 2 episodes when I was at one of my friend's place in Boston before we went to Canada. I was on an air mattress in her living room, sharing a bed with my other friend. And I was in the room with 4 other people and they were all sleeping. So I knew that I couldn't Sarah Paulson cry. It's a great story. And yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, I completely feel that. And I guess if people are here who haven't seen the show and you don't mind getting spoiled, we can do a little summary. So One Day, which the title itself has multiple meanings in my head, but it's all one day, July 15th. We see this day between them through a lot of their lives and all of one of theirs. And it takes place in Edinburgh. We start with them meeting at a party during their graduation on something called St. Swithin's Day. Dexter and Emma are lovely main characters. They spend the night together. They don't have sex, but they talk and they spend the whole next day together. And you can just immediately see that there's a deep soulmate-like callback connection between them. They remain best friends for the next 20 years, and each episode is a different period of their lives, and you see where they are and how they kind of reconnect and update each other. You know, they have some career highs and lows. A lot of tragedy happens in families. There's a moment where Dexter's in a really low place. They get into fights, and it's really like a very organic way of watching a relationship between two people. I really appreciated how real and authentic it felt, because it really felt like you were going through these 20 years with them. And like it's true, like you're not going to be in constant communication with someone for your entire life. And I just thought they did a brilliant job of this conceptually.
I've never watched a show where it takes place over so much time, but you only see small vignettes of each period of their life, which I thought they did really well. And it was honestly, it felt good to see two imperfect people live their lives, because a lot of times in the media it feels very perfected and everything's okay, but it made me realize like, oh, okay, these people lived out their 20s and into their 30s. They had a plan in quotes, which I want to talk about later, the idea of a plan, but life threw them curveballs and they were struggling and things happened. And I don't know, it just reminded me that like life for everybody is rough and you go through things, but the high moments really make it worth it. And then the low moments are low. The highs were high in this and the lows were low.
The lows were extremely low.
There are reasons cannabis is illegal in New Jersey for those under 21. If you're a parent, you should know them. Early cannabis use can inhibit brain development, impair learning, and increase the risk of later substance abuse and mental health issues. Talk to your kids about cannabis. Set clear boundaries. Most of all, be a role model. Be cannabis smart to stay cannabis safe. Learn more at cannabissafe.nj.gov.
Yeah, it's making me like really sad to think about. What do you think this show says about friendship?
It's hard because I get that Dexter and Emma were friends, but I do think that they were romantic soulmates. Like I get that they were really good friends, best friends even, but I feel like in each episode you can see Emma kind of like fighting her feelings towards him. And I felt like Dexter just wasn't ready for a relationship with her until arguably it was too late. But seeing their friendship develop over time was really, really beautiful. And I think it was, I mean, I mentioned earlier, like this idea that you're not always going to be with your friends. Like a lot of us, you know, we moved away from college, and like for me, I see a lot of my friends from Tampa like once a year, and I kind of see that parallel of, I mean, it's not July 15th, it's usually in December, but it's like yeah, I have a one day moment where I see my friends one day a year and we all catch up, and it's like literally exactly what they do, like recapping our lives from the last year and talking about what we've gone through. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing to show. There was a big conflict moment in one of the episodes where, I mean, Dex becomes so annoying to me, but he's just deeply selfish and like doesn't listen to Emma at all. And I think setting the boundary for their friendship was also an important thing for them to do. And like the fact that, I don't know, like you should expect respect, even if you're not in a relationship. Like it doesn't matter if you're in a romantic relationship or not. But I don't know. I think it was very fascinating to see how their connection evolved over time and that they did stick by each other. What did you think it said about friendship?
For me personally, like my dream is to have a thing like Emma and Dexter, but doesn't end the way theirs end, but to have someone that you're like best friends with that just turns it just naturally, it's like, oh, like Emma and Dexter, Aidan and X, like, like there's everybody, all the people around them could tell that they could sense the vibes and the energy. And that's, so I do see that they are definitely romantic soulmates. But in terms of friendship, the friendships that really stuck out to me, ignoring Dexter and Emma, Miss Tilly. Tilly was literally there from the beginning. They were roommates, and then they stayed consistent friends till the end. And it warmed my heart that, I don't know, you hear about people lose contact with their friends and things happen and life gets in the way. And Tilly and Emma's life went in totally different directions. Tilly got married, had a bajillion kids. Emma was, moving between jobs and figuring out her writing. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I liked their friendship a lot. It felt very wholesome and real. And even though we didn't see the negative sides of it, like we saw the fights between Dexter and Emma, I still felt like, oh, like that's her girl. And yeah, I hope I have the same.
I loved the speech that Emma gave at Tilly's wedding. I think I cried during that too, because it was just worded so well. And yeah, like you said, I felt very connected to it with like the roommates I've had in college. And yeah, I think that was like the ideal, like that is the goal, I feel, friendship wise, is to have a Tilly.
And Dexter didn't have a Tilly.
No, he didn't.
Dexter had a Sylvie, which is a different type of relationship. I did like Sylvie.
Me too.
She was flawed for spoiler alert, cheating on him with his friend. But the fact that she was there for him when he was in his lowest point and checked up on him and put their past aside, I feel like, wow, that's a good ex-wife.
Like Dex needed someone to like tell him to get his shit together, but it was just, was.
It's their love, and it's like that tough, not tough, I guess in a way tough love, but their relationship was so interesting considering that his dad went through the same thing.
I know.
And when his dad said something like, don't worry, like he said something on the lines of, I would know, or I've been there. And
yeah,
I miss Dexter's mom. She knew from the beginning. And in that final scene in the last episode where you see Dexter and Emma, they're reading that poem about death when she goes to his house over Christmas, and Dex is going up to bring the wine bottle, and his mom is like, oh, I have nicer stuff than that. And the way that she looks at them, like a mother knows, Oh my God, you guys. A mother knows, and that mother knew. And yeah, and then she died.
I know.
So much death. And
it's just hard because I feel like, honestly, in both scenarios, so I would say that Emma and his mom were the two most important women in his life. Even while his mom was dying, I felt like he really neglected her. I mean, he showed up late on her birthday by like 3 hours because he was busy getting high. And then he, in my opinion, wasted so much time to get with Emma. And I just feel like both of those women were taken away from him so early, and he didn't value them while they were present in his life. And I think that's why we see him really spiral, because I think he is finally getting to that realization. But like while watching the show, every episode, I feel like I was always like, Dex, like you need to open your eyes and see what you have in front of you. Like you are throwing so much away right now, and you need to just get your shit together.
If we were to make a sequel, I hope that he gives the love that he wasted, that he didn't use on Emma and his mom and his daughter. I really hope, and you could tell that a little bit when he brought her up to Arthur's feet at the end, but I really hope that he learned eventually, and he can really be a great father to that little girl and imbue Emma and his mom within him and make up for lost time with her.
Dad, you're so slow.
You all right back there? Should I alert search and rescue?
Look, there's the Royal Mile and the castle.
Yeah, I think that last scene, I mean, I was definitely sobbing before that, but that scene in particular, when he takes his daughter up to Arthur's feet, that was a twist of the knife. Because, I mean, the way that they blended the flashbacks of the first episode, and it was just like, you are watching this man push down what could only be immense feelings of grief, because he like wants his daughter to have fun and enjoy this beautiful place, and he has these beautiful experiences there, and that's obviously playing in his mind, but like he can't burden his daughter with that in that moment. Like he really has to push it aside, but then it's also like balancing that with, this is a place where joy can be found.
What really got me in that scene, which is something that I think about often in my own day-to-day life, is in that last scene when they were, like you said, putting together the past and the present. When he was in the past walking up Arthur's Foot with Emma and walking through those cobblestone streets, like he didn't know that in how many 15 years he was going to be walking down the same streets and Emma wasn't going to be there and he was going to be with his daughter. And I think about that often. I've said before, I'm a very nostalgic person, and I often think about, you took these streets to class when you were a nervous freshman at 18 years old when you moved to New York City by yourself, and now you're walking down by yourself again, but more content with it, and you have a great job and great friends, and you've built a great life for yourself. And I almost wish I could go back in time and shake that boy and be like, oh my God, enjoy it, but also don't worry. And I wish Dexter could go back and shake himself and be like, not don't worry, because he has a lot to worry about, but
Right.
like, oh, enjoy the moment and live in it and respect it. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, which I brought up a little bit in the beginning, is the idea of having a plan. And that was one thing that Emma asked Dexter that first night that they spent together in bed.
What's your plan?
Do you usually ask for a breakdown in advance?
I mean, for your life. The plan for your life.
Oh, God. Right. Okay. My parents are here for graduation, obviously.
But she asked him, like, what's your plan? And I feel like in that moment, when we had just met those characters, I kind of thought, oh, Emma's type A, Emma's a great student, Emma's going to get a great job, Emma's going to career focus, blah, 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 blah. Dexter's going to slack off. He's not going to reach his goals, whatever. But Dexter's goal was to be famous. And Dexter achieved that in a weird way. He literally got his goal a few years after that. And Emma was the one who was struggling working at that Mexican restaurant with the singing. And it was interesting to me that even people who feel like they have it all planned out, they did great in college, they have their plan, they know what they want to do, it doesn't always work out. And the people who slack off can get what they want. Like, darn it, that's so unfortunate. And even his plan didn't work out. So I feel like the idea, I don't know, do you feel like that you have a plan? Because I know that I don't have a plan. And I always say, like, if you don't have expectations, you won't be disappointed. I do have a loose, like, I'm driven. I'm definitely driven and I have goals, but I don't have like and in 5 years, I want to do this. And in 3 years, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't think for the long term that much.
This is hilarious to me because I would say one of my core personality traits is the fact that I plan out everything. So I watch the show and I watch that scene happen where she has him with her and you think that they're going to hook up, but she's like, wait, so what's your plan? And I texted all of my friends and I was like, guys, she's so me. Because I was like, yeah, I would totally do that too. And so watching her not be me was a little bit disappointing, but I exactly like you said, I think it was nice to see that contradiction there, especially to Dex, who seemed like he had no idea what he was doing. But for me, I have always had a plan. Like when I was in the 5th grade, I knew I would go to Columbia. I knew I would move to New York, and then I did that. And then I knew I would get like a specific job, and then I did that. I feel I'm a very goal-oriented person, and I plan my life like 5 to 10 years in advance. And like I know exactly where I want to be and when. Emma started to annoy me because she had no idea what she was doing. And I think I'm so deeply type A. And like she literally, like she had, I think ended up getting her shit together a little bit by the end. But there were just moments in the show where I was just like, girl, what are you doing? Like, please do anything else. Like when she was in the RV, I was like, what is this? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, I kind of like that aspect of it though, because I feel like she was struggling for a long time, but it worked out. I mean, obviously it didn't work out where she stayed alive, but she ended up being a writer. Like she got a book deal and she struggled for a while. And I feel like that's what your 20s are for. And I also want to rephrase from before. I don't want to sound like a Dexter slacker because I'm
I
not.
didn't
But
think you were.
okay, I just want to let the people out there know that. And it's weird because I'm such a planner for the day to day. Like I'm like, okay, we're gonna eat dinner at 8. Like I'll make a reservation. Like don't be late. Like I'm very strict with that. But in terms of, I had no idea what type of job I wanted. But then I ended up getting a job that I love, and it turns out it's exactly what I wanted. I didn't know where I wanted to go to college. Ended up going to a school that was perfect for me. So I guess like Dexter, things work out, but I think I'm more driven than him because I made them work out and through hard work and
Right.
dedication.
I also felt like, because one of Dexter's things, like his immediate plan was to travel and go see the world. And that for me was like, I don't know, it was an example of him and his, I think, privilege. Like, I think that was a big portion of his entire character. And like, just that he was just like, yeah, I'll just go around the entire world. And I was like, I wish I could do that. That sounds absolutely amazing. I think like he had very fascinating flaws, but I felt like Emma really balanced him out. And I think that's like another aspect of that soulmate connection that they had, where they obviously both have things, everyone has something that's wrong with them, but they complemented each other in that way. And like Emma didn't like hate him for who he was. If she ever was mad at him, it was because of how he treated her, which I think is super fair. He treated her like shit in that one episode. But yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that bullshit I just spew. I don't know what I said.
No, not bullshit. I hear you. And I agree. I think to a point, traveling after graduation, great. I would have loved to gallivant around Europe and Asia or wherever he went. But that ends, the fairy tale ends. And I liked when his mom kind of pulled the curtain for him and was like, okay, Dex, like you can't just travel forever. I loved how they balanced each other. I think that's, like you said, what a soulmate is. Being a soulmate, you accept each other's flaws. And I feel like if we were to give each of these people like an attachment style, Dexter would be like that avoidant. Dexter's avoidant 1,000%. I am happy though that they had those few years of bliss, and even though they were struggling to have a baby, they felt so. I feel like I'm glad that they had that moment. It would have been really sucky if they only had like a week, if they had moved in and then the accident happened. I'm glad they had a few years, but it could have been 15 years if they just would have said it. And the TikToks that I've seen that brought me to watch the show were just saying things like, tell the people that you love them. Don't waste your 20s. Live every day like it's your last. And, live with no regrets. And I stand by that. And even though this is a fiction story, I still feel like it definitely could happen. And
Oh
Tell
yeah.
the people you love that you love them. Like I said in our Glee episode, I have always been very upfront with my crushes about liking them because you never know.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like I'm very against this notion of being afraid to tell someone that you like them, or like confessing that you have a crush on someone is such a big deal. Like, I get it, it's scary to do, but I don't know. I feel like I would say my mindset is a fuck it we ball type situation, where hey, if they don't like you back, then fuck it. Like, that's on them. Like, that doesn't say
It's
anything
all
about
for the
me.
plot.
It's all for
It's
the
all for
plot.
the plot at the end of the day.
I completely agree.
2024 the plot.
Exactly. I
And the
completely
worst,
feel
honestly, and the worst they can say is no. And audience, from someone who's had no said to them, you're fine. It hurts for a little bit, but at the end of the day, you realize that means it wasn't meant to be.
that. Right. I literally.
Okay? So that's the worst they can say. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to ruin your career. Like, it's the worst they can say is no. So YOLO.
In the 8th grade, I told my crush that I liked them, and he responded by saying, dot, dot, dot. And I'm still here. And I'm sitting here, and I'm alive, and I'm happy. So...
Oh my gosh. Wait, I have a story like that. That's crazy. I'm so sorry.
It's
Dot,
funny
dot
now.
is insane. It is funny now. I once told someone that I liked them, and they told me, "Oh, I know, but I don't see you like that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I'm just gonna take the exit. Bye bye."
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the
But
worst.
dot is insane. If someone did that to me, 8th grade, yikes. If someone oh my God, if someone did that to me at 23 plus years old, I would be like, come on, grow up.
Yeah.
Grow up in 8th grade, honestly. Dot.
Right. Also 8th grade. I think he was a freshman actually at that point, and I was like a little 8th grader. So that's a fun
That's
thing.
insane.
Yeah. So hey guys, confess your feelings, because dot, dot, dot is the worst that can happen.
It really is. Yeah. And look at her now. Look at us now. You make it.
You make it. Then you'll get a podcast.
That's the rule. That's the prerequisite for having a podcast. You get rejected.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. That's how we got here, actually.
That's how I put that on my application. That's on my resume. If I ever work in recruiting one day, that's what I'm going to ask people. So forget, your volunteering in college. Have you ever been rejected?
I think it's
You're
a great
hired.
example of showing your resilience.
Yeah, how you pivot from a situation that didn't go your way. That's basically a rephrase of the questions they already asked.
Exactly. I mean, tell us a time that you experienced a setback. My crush said he didn't like me. So I'm here now. Anyway.
Let us know your thoughts on one day, soulmates, fate, relationships, and getting rejected by your crush.
Share your thoughts with us at banterly@immigrantlypod.com and engage with us on our socials at immigrantlymedia on Instagram and at immigrantlypodcast on TikTok.
Banterly is produced by Shay Yu, written by us, the co-host Aditi Misra and Aidan Taylor. The executive producer and editorial review is done by Sadia Khan.
Our sound designer and editor is Steve Martin. The Banterly theme music is by Simon Hutchinson. Additional music is by Epidemic Sound. See y'all next week.
See y'all next week.